All right. And there's probably a delay, but we'll see. Erica, let me know when you can, when you have. They're talking about cats and dogs on there. I don't know if you can see the chat.
I saw that. I was Roxby on this one.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Talking about the. She says dogs are better than cats.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Julian.
All right. So can you see us? We see in here. Okay. So how's the audio, everybody? Let us know in the chat if you can hear me. Okay. Sorry, we're a few minutes late. That's on me, guys. And let me know if you guys can see both John and I. You should be seeing a split screen there.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see it, John?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
All right. And guys, we're going to wing it. John and I were going to talk about what we're talking about, and we spent our time trying to get my end working correctly. So just know I've got some questions prepared, and John, brother, feel free to say I don't know, or whatever. We can skip questions.
Cool.
So
sounds good, bro.
All right. Forsake logic, and then John. I'm not sure. Yeah. All right, guys. So, but most of you in the chat, I know, all know John. I see Nate2D2, DNew. Shout out to all you guys. You guys are all awesome. Julian, who are both supporters of John and us over here at Believing Thinkers. And thank you guys for showing up today. And for those that are watching that are not aware, this is Jon McCray who's joining us, who is a world famous.
Not quite.
Yeah, YouTube apologist, and I guess we'll give them a little bit of background in case we do have viewers that are not familiar with what you do, John. Could you tell us kind of what your channel is about and what your ministry and whatnot?
Yep. So my channel is called Whaddo You Meme, and I started off kind of just wanting to do a channel where I was just going to respond to a bunch of like anti-Christian memes, but I knew that memes would be kind of dated, so I expanded it to like memes, breezy slogans, popular anti-Christian videos, all that sort of thing too. So I pretty much just try to give a lot of responses, and lately I've been doing a lot of responses to really popular atheist videos.
Awesome. Yeah, I see Tippy Bear, everyone I normally see on all the other channels, so I'm pretty sure
cool.
Everyone in the chat knows exactly who you are. So for you guys, I apologize for what seems like a dumb question, but and maybe you guys can comment on your favorite videos that John has done, either past, present, or future. Maybe we'll read those off in a little bit, but I really love it, John. And one of the things I love about what you do in your ministry is how not only do you hit the logic and philosophy side, but you do it in a way that is very, I guess I would say, everyman sort of, you know what I mean? Where anyone, doesn't matter their background philosophically or theologically, they can get it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's what I kind of try to do, and it does get tricky at times too, because whenever you kind of switch your language from philosophical language to kind of practical language, you lose a little bit of precision a lot of the time, So what I kind of try to do is try to give it in a way that's still accurate, but also at the same time kind of relatable to the layman.
Yeah, that's something that we talk about a lot on this channel, is exactly that. Philosophy is designed for, one of its biggest attributes is that it can be precise in that way, and precision of language and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What would you say is your favorite ministry and or apologetic experience? Could be, a discussion you had with somebody, or an interview, or a video.
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it, but I do like teaching in like my local area. I like that a lot. Because there's a lot that you can do in person with like discipleship and that sort of thing and really help people. That's really a lot harder to do online. You lose a little bit of that, and it makes it a lot harder to be as effective online as it is to be effective when you have a relationship with people and you're teaching people consistently and can walk them through their problems, their kind of, the roadblocks that they have, their struggles, that sort of thing. So I really like the kind of one-on-one interaction. I'm really kind of bad with like groups a lot. But I really like, my natural kind of fit is to like talk to one person and then help them specifically on whatever kind of obstacles and stuff they have. So,
amen. Yeah, that's probably my favorite as well. with the ministries Erica and I do. That's awesome. I had a question in there that I was going to ask you. I know what it was. When you are doing that sort of one-on-one and face-to-face thing, do you find that the interaction is different than what you get online? Now, I don't mean the obvious side.
Right.
Everyone that I recognize in the chat, if those of you I think are all theists and thereby Christians, so I don't necessarily just mean atheists, but I just mean in general. Is the experience different?
And what kind of way are you thinking in terms of like communication or how people talk to me, or what kind of way are you thinking?
Yeah, great question. So I'm thinking in my mind of just in the way they sort of receive and like object. So I guess communication is sort of what I'm getting at there.
Yeah. So online, it's kind of just how online is. Like they're seeing they're not seeing a three-dimensional person. You're just seeing like a little picture of somebody and then somebody that's on whatever side. That's how people tend to think, They're like, oh, he's a, conservative, or he's a Christian, or he's an atheist or whatever. And you don't really see the full person. But online, online, I'll get some snarky, rude comments and stuff like that. But that just kind of comes with it. But in person, it's like, I don't necessarily get that, as much. But if I do, I don't really mind it either. So I don't really mind the conflict in that kind of sense too. So I don't see too much of a difference. I just think online it's just so much more narrow with like what you can say and how you can communicate to people. That makes sense.
No, it does. It does. It makes perfect sense. And again, I think probably all of us on some level or another, except for maybe Julian. He's like an internet warrior when it comes to actually. A lot of you guys in there are moderators on other channels than ours, and you guys do an awesome job.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody in there too. I recognize all of you actually, I think. So It's good to see all you guys.
You're getting a lot of love from over there. I was going to share some on the screen like David does, but I can't figure I'm still learning this software, guys. I'm using Ecamm Live for any of you that have channels that are wondering, which is David Woods had recommended on one of his recent streams, and I love it. But I'm handicapped, so. but anyway, yeah, I know John appreciates that, and I certainly do, that you guys are here and supportive and giving all that love.
Absolutely.
I know it's good. Probably you would feel the same way, John, that when you're out doing it, you sort of feel like you remember those old pajamas with the bottom flap? Where you ever seen those? You probably never worn them, neither have I, but they've got the bottom flap on the back end of them. You ever seen them in cartoons and whatnot?
Oh, yeah. All
right.
I think I know what you're talking about.
So I feel like some days when I'm out here doing this stuff online that it's like I've got the flap open and my bottom end is exposed, and for anyone to take a shot at it.
Oh,
man. If that makes sense.
Oh, I'm telling you now, because I talk to David Wood and Vocab like pretty much consistently in text and stuff, and also Mike Winger, Cameron, and Braxton Hunter. And the thing too about YouTube is what I keep saying, especially for new YouTubers, is like it is not for the weak, man. You will get called the worst possible things consistently every single day. You know what I mean? And like it gets to you sometimes. You know what I mean? But honestly, as time kind of goes on too, you just get more and more used to it, and you just don't even care anymore. But at first, I was like, man, this is offensive. You know what I mean? It's like people don't usually talk to me like that. You know what I mean? And you don't even really understand what's going on. But yeah, it's YouTube. A lot of people will text and they're just sick of it. You know what I mean? You get sick of it. Besides Wood, he doesn't care. Yeah, but yeah, man, it's like that, out there. But you get more used to it, I think. You know what I mean? And I'm a person that doesn't mind conflict. So for a lot of people that don't necessarily like the conflict, which is a lot of people, and you don't like to be called names and that sort of thing too. It's got to be really hard, man. You know what I mean? And so I think anybody that has a channel should know that too.
Yeah.
Getting into.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I know, and for me, and I know you and David have both had your wives in some of your videos, and Eric and I do it together. And for me, I don't mind so much if it's directed at me. It's kind of a lot of times it's laughable. You read it and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's the occasional one that's directed at her, and I'm like, oh no, that ain't happening. That's not happening.
Dude, it's weird, man, because I'm the same way, kind of. I don't care as much if people talk about me, but when they start talking about my friends, that's when I start getting more upset. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, brother. Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to know that I'm human. And for those of you guys that don't know, I've been really blessed. I wanted to say this. I forgot that John has been mentoring me with this whole YouTube experience and just been a really good friend. And John, I appreciate that. I know a lot of people don't know you, outside of what you do online, but those of you guys that don't know him personally, he's a great guy. Because it's hard when you're out doing this stuff by yourself to get that kind of help. Because we're all busy. I mean, you're working 9 to 5, and then doing your videos when you go home. A lot of times John's texting me, guys. He's like, I'll talk to you in between this moment and this moment. And you're willing to, talk to me longer, I know, a lot of times, which I appreciate. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, you're really a great guy, and I appreciate that. And same with, a lot of the guys. I've talked to Braxton. Of course, he's the president of our college.
Cool.
But sometimes hard to get a hold of. But anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That doesn't mean all y'all get his number to text him. I'm not allowed to share that, but anyway, yeah. So favorite philosopher, and I know if you're like me, it may change depending on the topic, but
yeah.
Do you have one?
I'd say, it depends on the topic, overall, probably William Lane Craig still. Craig's the man. And people hate on him a lot. And so what is kind of weird is I noticed this because I was doing debates on Facebook and stuff for a couple years before I started my channel. And I remember the atheists would always just say, oh, Craig's a liar, this, because they have to do that a lot of the times too, because if they say that he's really intelligent and knows what he's talking about, then then he becomes a threat, but if you can just hand wave him away, he's not a threat, but people would hate on him, and then I would purposely take his argument or take something he said and use it, and then people would just react to it way different. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, okay, yeah. They're like, oh, John knows what he's talking about. I'm like, you bashed William Lane Craig, and I literally just copied what he said just to see how you'd react. And I would do that stuff just to kind of test it. And so I realized that that's when I started realizing that a lot of these people aren't as these free thinkers that they claim to be a lot, and I'm sure, and I'm not saying that this only goes that way. I'm sure it goes the other way too, but that was when I started kind of noticing that. But Craig is dope, and I really like Tim McGrew when it comes to epistemology, because he kind of rings true with my intuitions when it comes to epistemology. Him and his wife's work on epistemology. I'm trying to think who else. I'd say that they're probably two of the ones that are more influential. And then just my best friend, we talk we actually talk every day, and we argue all the time, and then that's where I really start learning how to think better, is having somebody to just argue with all the time. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I'm very fortunate. I have Erica, and so we don't argue so much because she's too nice. She would let me win. But she's. I don't think I could actually win against her. Let me be clear. All right. But, she's quite a bit smarter than I am, but yeah, I know what you mean, and it does. And sometimes, if she says I don't understand or whatever, it forces me to think harder in a way where how do I express this in a way that it really drives the point home.
That's right. And you're probably, because you seem kind of intuitive, which is why you because intuition's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because you don't need as many steps, so you can kind of know, because I realize my communication sometimes is intuitive, and it makes it harder for me to communicate stuff sometimes, because some people need more steps, and sometimes I'm already at the answer, and then they're just like, what? I don't understand, because I don't know how you got there. And so so my wife makes me too break down. She's like, explain this step by step, and that really helps. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Erica will say that sometimes. She'll say, you sound like what I have a particular professor, my philosophy professor. You sound like him. And what she means is that I'm just presuming a lot, and I'm intuiting a lot of things, and you're dead on. Which brings me to one of my questions, actually, because we've talked about this, and I will probably mispronounce it, which is to sort of talk about something you recently had mentioned to me, to better understand myself, my strength and my weaknesses.
Oh yeah.
In terms of is it Enneagram? Do I have it right?
Enneagram.
Yeah. I knew I was going to get it wrong.
Yeah. No worries. So basically what it is kind of like a personality thing. It's somewhat like the Myers-Briggs, but I just think it's way more helpful. So from a practical level, I think that it's a tool that I think it's really helpful to get people to understand. for as a Christian, when I say this, I think that it really helps to get us kind of to see our sin nature and just how deep it goes, which helps us understand grace better and understand the gospel better, and also understand that not everybody thinks like us. We all just naturally project our way of thinking onto the rest of the world, but that's just not how it is. Like, people don't think like us. So understanding more perspectives really helps in your evangelism too, and your one-on-one witnessing with people. And me and my friend, we built a couple models for when it comes to communication and discipleship and that sort of thing too. And then at some point in a postmodern culture, because people's subjective experience is going to be how they make decisions. There's going to be their way that they make decisions rather than the data or rather than the authority of the Bible, that sort of thing. Because of that, you're going to have something a little bit more precise if you want to communicate to an individual person. And I think a tool like the Enneagram will really help there.
Yeah, and I'd recommend all you guys in the chat to check that out if you haven't. If you're not, many of you may be familiar with it. I noticed when I looked up a lot of the videos, brother, 90% of them were Christians doing the videos and/or pastors. Sandals Church, I think, was one of them, which I'm just sort of becoming familiar with, in part because of that. And it's really cool, and it helped me because exactly that. Erica did one.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just looking at Julian's comment. Julian, you said you're a 5-wing 4. I would swear that you'd be a 6-wing 5. I would swear. So, but that's just from me talking to you. So that's interesting, though, to see that. You're familiar with it too. Yes. So you can let me know your thoughts. My bad. You can.
No, brother. This is all about you today. I'm just laughing because sort of same thing is it labeled Erica 9-1, which is the same as me. And now when she says stuff, I'm like, you're not a 9-1. You are not a 9-1. You're a 9-8 or you're whatever. And she's like, I don't even care.
Yeah, she rings of a 6 to me if I had to guess.
Yep. That's what I think too. Something on that end. Very smart woman. I'm very blessed to have her as a wife. But yeah. And it was funny because her test came right back, 9-1. Mine, none of them, they'd say you're a 1 and then a 5 and a 3. And I'm like everything. And I'm like, that doesn't make, and it makes sense because when I would take the test, I'm like, some of the questions I was like, neither. Why would I do either of those?
Right.
Or why would that be important to me at all? Or there's a third option. This is a false dichotomy here. I'm philosophizing it. But anyway, the whole point to that, you guys, is that it's awesome. And that kind of brings me to another question I had for you, which was, again, about methodology in the sense that, trying to think of how to phrase it for clarity. In the postmodern culture that we're in, or even, we could frame that phrase in a number of ways, just where truth doesn't seem to be relevant so much anymore. Now, granted, that is postmodern, but some will reject that idea. How do you deal with that in the sense of creating your videos? Because I imagine it's got to be difficult to make sure that you can show why something is wrong in a culture where nothing's, what's true for you isn't true for me, and that's okay. They can be mutually like that.
Yeah. So I think the advantage that I kind of naturally have there is just because I'm naturally pretty postmodern, so it's because of just how I was in the culture and stuff like that too. I understand it kind of intuitively at that kind of point, you know what I mean? So because of that, and then as I started, thinking more instead of feeling as much, I started becoming more grounded and objective, and so with that, it really kind of helps a lot of the times because I can kind of feel what they're going to feel when they see this or hear this, you know what I mean? But also too, there is some logic to it too, because if I understand, I think it boils down to how do people come to understand what's true? How do they come to make decisions? So something like grocery shopping. Do they shop based off of how they feel in the moment? You know what I mean? Or do they shop based on whatever their spouse told them to get, and then they stick to that? Or do they shop based on, do they write out a list and say, I have this budget, I have this amount of money, and I do this, there's different ways that people come to know things. And this is where the model that we built really helps to kind of make it more clear. But those different ways is what's very important for you to know, what it's going to take to find something that's persuasive to them. So we broke it down to like 3 categories. The first category is going to be where people come to make decisions based off of what an authority figure says of some sort, what the authority says. So there's not really a path there. So it's more like, why is this true? Oh, it's true because the authority says it's true.
Okay.
And so you get a lot of, I want to say a lot of the precepts tend to argue that kind of way, or people that do street preaching a lot. Because there's no kind of logic there. They're kind of just like, telling people, here's the scriptures because the authority says this, authority says this, authority says this, right? And for people that don't hold that sort of way of coming to understand stuff, they can't understand what's going on, So that's why I just don't think it's as effective, because I don't think culture is primarily pre-modern anymore. We call it pre-modern. Is kind of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then the other category would be people that come to make decisions based off of some sort of structure, external structure. So these people would come to know what's true based off of like what science says, or because this path says it's like if A then B then A then B, like this logical rigor, or some sort of science or something like that. They'll come to hold their positions and views for that. And these are the people, when they're shopping, they're going to be guys that say, what does the budget say? How much money am I going to make? This is what I can afford. And then write down the list kind of detailed, And then where I think most people are at today is going to be in the postmodern category, where they're going to come to make decisions based off of what feels right. Mm-hmm. It's very, and it sounds so simple, but I mean, it really is this kind of simple too. But
right.
If it feels bad, it is bad. If it feels right, it is right. And so if people make decisions that way, they're going to have so many contradictions in their worldview, because it's not about being consistent like it would be in the previous category that we talked about. And there's a whole history of thought and stuff that goes with this, with the thought through philosophy and stuff like that too. But I think really where we're at is really important to know that what do these people find as evidence? What do they find that's persuasive to them, And if it's going to be how they personally feel inside, then that's going to be a way different approach you're going to take than the person that was way over here, who's yelling their authority at people, because they don't hold your authority, So you have people that, to put it simply, you say authority, tradition, one category, logic and rigor, or if you want to say in another category, and then how you feel in another category. Yeah. So I mean, like, what works in one category is not going to work in another, and so that's kind of in a nutshell. And I know that's kind of jumbled because I couldn't, flesh out each of these points, but
that's really good. I appreciate that. I'm thinking, I'm a number 2 except for grocery shopping. I'm a number 3.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is people will be a little different in areas, you know what I mean? But what you'll find is if you push people in one area, where they fall back to and kind of where they get the most worked up, if they don't want to let go, that's going to be their primary way that they're coming to make decisions. And so that's why I think in a postmodern culture, we have to be able to it's a lot more than just being like just on YouTube and stuff. Like, we have to be able to get to know people personally and know these personal subjective blocks that they have, and where their identity is, their personal identity that they've elevated to the top, because people are going to have identity things, but they'll be like, if the authority thing, identity comes after that. Like, how do I know who I am? Because the authority tells me who I am, you see what I mean? Or it's like traditions that way. Why am I going to be a mechanic? My dad told me I'm going to be a mechanic, and he was a mechanic, and his dad was a mechanic, that sort of thing too. Gotcha. So it's not the other ways that they come to know truth. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what the logic and reason or whatever else says. What matters is going to be what the authority says, so.
Oh, that's awesome, brother. I'm stealing all of this.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
And you call that decision like a decision tree, or how would you?
Yeah. Well, my best friend that we work on it with, he's Asian. So right now it's just called the Blasian model. But like we're planning on, like, we've been teaching on it now for like the last, maybe like 8 months or so, like that. We've been teaching on it too, so it does get deep, and then there's a lot of things that are really helpful, but it's very hard to just do that same thing on YouTube. You know what I mean? There's just an element that's missing, because we need all 3 of those categories in Christianity. We need them all, and so people will just, too much of one is where everybody's going to get in trouble, and that's what we all just naturally do, and so the Christian is going to take in the authority, the mind, and your emotions. It's all going to be together, and so that's what you're optimally working towards, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Adam said 4D chess, mind blown, and I agree, Adam. I assume he's talking about your model. And I was going to say too, John, that
Sure.
it's something you may want to think about doing videos on your Patreon with that.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm on your Patreon, I would, of course, saying that out of selfishness. I would love to learn that. So,
I've actually thought about that though. I thought about that, like teaching it on the Patreon and stuff like that. That's a good idea. So I may consider that here in the future.
Yeah, where you're focused. Now, are you currently teaching it at your church? Is that where you're? Because that was the other thing I was going to ask is, where are you doing this at?
Right, yeah. No, so we teach at a Reasonable Faith chapter locally. So
Awesome.
so you can pretty much teach what you want to teach, and so we've been teaching our own kind of thing for the last, maybe year or 2 years actually now. So
Yeah. Nate says, "Hey, I'm Asian," so I think that he can definitely use the Blasian model.
yeah,
I think I sort of can because I got Erica on one side there, but
yeah.
I just can't call it that. I'll have to call it something else.
yeah. I'll call it Asian.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I call myself a cracker all the time, and people laugh at that, and I don't mind. I grew up went to a school where it was very. I was, I mean, not only having red hair and freckles, but being Caucasian was the minority. So I was called Cracker more than a box of saltines. Cracker, honky, I mean, you name it, it didn't matter. But
Well, what's funny is, so Wood, whenever I talk to David Wood, like I'll always refer to him as something white, and I say it and I'll change it up every single time I talk to him. Like some days I'll call him like a pair of socks, or someday I'll call him like white out, or and sometimes I'll call him like Muhammad, since Muhammad was white.
Yeah, it was white. Yeah.
But it's just funny because every time I talk to him, I'll just try to think of something else that's like white, and then I'll just call him that, like toilet paper or paper towel or whatever.
You can call him Wonder Loaf next time. White bread.
Yeah.
That was a nickname of mine. Some friends would call me Wonder Loaf, or like Wonder Bread. Yeah, it's white. That's funny. That's funny. Oh man, that's so funny. All right, I had another question because there was a comment that scrolled by, and I thought, oh, that's a good. That would make for a good question. I think it had to do with epistemology because somebody just was mentioning epistemology, and we have a bunch of philosophy geeks for the most part on the channel, or at least people who enjoy hearing us talk about philosophy and or epistemology. What do you? And I know with like epistemology, it's very broad in a category, but how do you identify yourself in that? For those watching that are familiar with epistemology, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say that I would probably say that I'd be a foundationalist, probably classical foundationalism, with probably internalist position. I'm not. I'd say that I'm not a reformed epistemologist, and I know that's really popular right now. But for me, I'm just. I just don't. Yeah, I just find a lot of kind of issues with it for me personally too, because I kind of think like you have this element of all these ideas and stuff are really good, but then you think about like, how does this work in the real world too? You know what I mean? And so then there's always this kind of battle with that too. You know what I mean? So for my conscience, I'd say that, yeah, I would be an internalist, foundationalist of some sort.
It's funny because using your model, it's exactly right. I'm not a reformed epistemologist either. And I think that it falls into that authority structure that you were talking about, that because we want to say that, well, why are certain criteria here a foundation and those criteria meet? Well, because, it doesn't require defense because it's not, and you go, okay, and it fits perfectly in that model. So, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and then if you think about the postmodern aspect, right? So if a problem is going to be because a postmodernist is going to come to make decisions based off of their internal feelings and experiences, and so if this is the way that they're going to come to make decisions, and we're trying to show them that those are false experiences, then how can we say that something like reformed epistemology is going to be valid? It feels like cheating at that point to me, because then we're saying true for you, not true for me, and then we're doing the same problem that the postmodernist is doing. Does that make sense?
It does. Yep. And I've had those same thoughts. It's funny because I'm smiling, you guys, because in my philosophy classes in college, this topic. I won't say who because I don't want to throw those philosophers under the bus because they're not here to talk about it. But people you and I know, professional philosophers, think these same things and talk about and feel sort of the same way. And listen, for those of you that do hold to reformed epistemology, neither John or I are saying it's bad. We're just saying it's sort of hard maybe to defend in.
Oh no, I'm saying it's bad. No, I'm just
Well, I'm thinking, yeah. So I'm thinking it's hard to defend. I know you're kidding, but yeah, it's yeah, I get it.
I think just on a pure practical level, right? So I have a video that I just have to record, but talking about Dillahunties and Aaron Raw and all these type of people, their epistemology. And what's fascinating about this is that I came to realize that I think most atheists are not that second category I was talking about, but they're really postmodern because they're usually not making this. They're not following the logic. They're not making the decisions based off the logic. It all comes down to basically how they feel about stuff and these the way that these words feel. So you think about like a lot of leftists and stuff like this. The ones that are really far left. They'll talk about stuff and they'll use these words, but these words don't have like any sort of objective meaning. You know what I mean? So they'll say stuff like you're a bigot, but if you look at the definition of a bigot, it's not what they mean, right? And they use all this kind of virtuous language. So it's more of the feel behind the word rather than what the word actually means. And I find the same sort of stuff going on too when it comes to a lot of the YouTube atheism and stuff like that as well, which was really kind of shocking to me. But so if you think about like, I'm trying to think of a short way to say this without getting too deep. But
go for it.
Basically, if you have a problem, so if the way that people are coming to know to believe that things are true, we want to get them to be more instead of just their feelings. We want to try to move them to be more balanced with the other two categories too. So you want to get them to be more rational. But I think that Reformed epistemology is productive as well too, because you're telling people they don't need to have rational arguments or anything like that too, and so it seems really kind of productive because the problem in the church is a lot of people already think like that. You know what I mean? They don't think they need apologetics because they're either going to be that first category where it's just about the authority, or they're going to be the last category, with the postmodern kind of category where it's just about my internal experience, and that's all that matters. And I don't think those are, I don't think that's the biblical position either. And so, like, I have kind of several problems with Reformed epistemology, but I still don't think it's all that biblical either. I just don't see that happening in the Bible. I think that God and Moses, Paul, Jesus are all like more evidentialist.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, you see John talking about the end of his gospel, why he wrote it, so that you might know these things, these proofs, and knowing these, believe. We see that all throughout where, Jesus allows Thomas to look at his side. He says, no, come put your fingers in the hole. And he's not just teasing him. He's going, hey, check out the what? The evidence. Yeah. And so, I would agree with you there. And I agree also the balance.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is to know like me and Vocab have like way different epistemologies, because he's a big precept, Calvinist and that sort of thing too, and so that's what. And so I don't want to make it sound like they can't make their arguments, because I know Vocab's pretty quick too. But from what I see, and if I'm just being completely honest, like, I just don't see it as much biblically, you know what I mean? And on top of it, I don't see it being effective practically, given the model that we just talked about too, you know what I mean? When people are trying to just yell scriptures at people, I just don't see that as effective unless people already share that authority. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. That's an awesome point. And Corinth's made a great one about Jesus and the authors of the Gospels pointed at evidence and encouraged readers to get more evidence and investigate. And I mean, you're already saying that, but I just want to give him a shout out for that, because that's a great point. And that's just it. And we love Vocab too. We support him. And so I know you're not knocking. Oh, don't worry. You get the most support.
Yeah. No, Vocab's my boy, and and I really like Vocab, man. Like, always seeing him too, and even though like we'll debate, but I like to debate with my friends and stuff too, because I even like to debate with David Wood a lot too. Like, I like that because it pushes me to start thinking differently, and it helps me refine my own thinking, you know what I mean? So I'd say like, anyways, if like most of my good friends are, we'll probably be arguing like most of our interactions.
Feel free to push back on me. Probably not now. I mean, it's just an interview. I mean, you're welcome to, but it'd be probably be weird in an interview. No, I'm not going to answer that question.
Right.
Forget it. But feel free to, in our conversations, I don't mind at all.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Iron sharpeneth iron, and that's how we get sharper. It's funny. Did you ever? I'm curious. When you were learning to do apologetics on your own, did you ever like watch debates and maybe pause it and think, okay, before I let like somebody like William Lane Craig, not that I've ever done this, even though I've got this perfect description of what I'm thinking of.
Right.
Before somebody like William Lane Craig would respond, pause it and think, well, how would I respond to this? And then sort of give your response and then play and see how they respond. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's weird. I remember doing that like once, maybe twice, but most of the time I was like, I already kind of know where I would go, you know what I mean? And then I hear what they say
Right.
to see if I think that it, I was like, oh, I can, I see where the, whatever kind of thing too. But what kind of is hard or it's just different for me is that like, I think those type of debates and like Craig, like I said, I think is awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes to a lot of stuff in philosophy. But what's harder for me is I'm not thinking in that second category again, right? That second category is going to be like academia, science, and all that sort of stuff where they have to follow this specific structure. Because I think most people just aren't thinking that way today. You know what I mean? So for me, the challenge is always trying to take like, how can I try to explain this in a way that's going to actually emotionally resonate with people to some sort of way, you know what I mean? Or that they can feel it to understand it as well. So I want to take that good thinking, but I want to use it in a more effective way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's too easy for people. People just don't care that much about facts anymore, and you see this even in politics and everything, right? Like, with the last election, when it was down to Trump and Hillary, how many people were really using facts? And then on top of that, how many people cared about the facts? You know what I mean? Because like they had these fact checkers and stuff. And I was like, I bet nobody cares. They've already made up their mind based more on how they feel or what they want anyway, or with you know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw a scary statistic that somebody was being interviewed by Congress. I don't remember the congressman interviewing him about the whole Google fairness and the whole internet stuff lately.
Probably talking about Prager, right?
In that same session, it wasn't Prager or Prager. I don't know how to pronounce the name.
Yeah.
And but it was this gentleman who was a Democrat, voted for Hillary, and came out and said he specializes in psychology and measuring this, and said that he knows for sure that Google was able to influence anywhere from 2 to 10 million votes subliminally in some method. He didn't really, the clip I saw didn't expound on that. And I just went, what? And I don't think people are, now I don't know if that means, in the sense that they're hiding or shifting information so that all the data people get to see, if they are looking for information, are only seeing what Google wanted them to see or what he had in mind there. But it sounded like he was describing subliminally somehow, and because he said they weren't even aware of it, and I was like, what?
Well, I mean, it would make sense. Like, it's like, I mean, you can just look at they're not even trying to hide it. A lot of like conservatives and stuff like that are just getting suppressed. They just are, you know what I mean? But YouTube is still doing pretty good. I'd say compared to every other social media network, YouTube is doing like the best by far, because you still have these big channels like Crowder and, you know what I mean, a lot of these kind of conservatives and stuff. But there's no doubt, man. But it's, from my perspective, when it comes to politics, is like, if you look at like a lot of the talking points in the rhetoric, again, it comes down to that feeling aspect, right? How do these words feel? You call people a racist, call them a Nazi and all this stuff. It doesn't matter if it's true or accurate, but what matters is how it gets people to feel, and then that galvanizes people into being more committed, And it's so awful because like, the division that comes from it is like a consequence of it, and it's a strong division. The more of that rhetorically charged language that you use, but this is how society has gotten to when it comes to these media outlets, these news outlets, and also the YouTube algorithm. All the algorithms for all the social media networks surrounds you with people who already think like you. And so then if they start filling with this rhetoric, it starts making you hate the other people, and then the division gets more and more and more and more and more divided, And so it really is a problem, but I just don't see a way that we can go back now, given how culture is in this kind of time.
Right. What would you do? Demolish the internet? I mean, short of that, I think we're going to have to get through these growing pains for people to learn how to, hopefully, learn how to interact and get back to our civility, which I feel like is really missing. And I want to go. Oh, go ahead, brother.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, this is a little kind of off topic a little bit, but it's just the way that people are thinking now, like when it comes to a lot of these issues and how they're making these decisions. Yeah, eventually everything's just going to have to collapse. I mean, when you're making everything so subjective by putting the individual's feelings above everything else in the community and everything else, what is the logical outcome of this going on and on and on? Eventually everything's going to collapse, you know? Yeah. And this world has just lost its mind, and it's so bizarre that, like, since we're in it, we can't really see as bizarre as it is. But if you kind of step back and think, you're like, what in the world is going on? Like, our world has just lost its mind.
I've been saying that for the last few weeks. I mean, years really, but particularly for the last few weeks, where I'm seeing just different things all around the world. Just I'm not going to get, I don't want to get too much into politics because I don't want to offend anyone with my opinions. But just in the infighting, and within even certain groups, not even just one side over here and one side over here. Sorry about that, Tippy Bear. That might be my kids you hear in the background. Erica and I have 5 children, and so it's very likely that you're hearing our kids playing.
It's probably mine too. So
I'm used to it. John and I were having this conversation before we started. That I'm used to it. So my dad just filters out the noise, so I don't even notice it. He asked me, "Do you hear that in some of my videos?" I'm like, I have a clue. It's just background noise to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted to go back to something you were saying, if I can remember it, because you were utilizing the decision tree or the Bayesian model, when you were talking about when we sort of started getting into this topic, and I thought it was brilliant. Oh, you were talking about in this postmodern world you were saying that you and I'll probably butcher this, particularly for those that are watching this after it's been recorded. Forgive me. I'm going off my memory. That you were saying something to the effect of, when you're trying to express what you want to say, of course you have to think about the decisions or feelings, how people are going to process it. Right. Do you do that on intuition, or is there some sort of methodology? Fitting into that type 2, you could see I want a method.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of things. So, like a practical kind of thing, because I do a lot with intuition, which is not good, because then I can't teach people that, right? And so that's why we've been working at breaking it down and that sort of thing too, because my friend's kind of intuitive too. But basically, like, if you think about something simple like abortion, like abortion, right?
Right.
So on abortion, when a girl comes to you and she says, "Hey, Dad," or some girl comes to her dad and says, I'm considering getting an abortion." You hear these words, and if you're thinking in the kind of strict logical form, you're hearing different than what she's saying a lot if she is postmodern, right?
Right.
So if she's kind of more postmodern, she's saying, like, I need you to care for me, like, I'm scared, I need help. And then if you're kind of more thinking the facts and science type stuff, you're like, well, a fetus is still a baby. Look at it, and you start giving her textbooks, science textbooks, and giving her all these facts. That's going to come across as unloving. You know what I mean? Even though you might mean it to be loving, but if you're not taking the time to understand her language and what she's actually really saying, then it's going to come across as very unloving, And so we have a similar thing. Oh, your screen's going crazy right now.
Oh no. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, hopefully everybody else can see you. We'll see. If it's messing up, you guys write down below.
Yeah, let me know if the video you're seeing on my end. We've got a thunderstorm. I don't know if you can hear it in the background overhead.
Yeah, so it just went away when the thunder went away, so.
Oh, it shook the house. If you see the screen shake, that was the thunder shaking the house.
Crazy. Yeah. So, but basically, so what I mean is, like, you wanna, oh, phone's ringing, sorry. So you want to understand where the person is coming from, and that's the loving thing to do, because I think about, like, a missionary, right? If you're a missionary and you just go to Korea, and you didn't even learn Korean, you didn't learn their culture, you didn't even try to figure it out, you just went there and just gave them some Bibles in English. Is that very loving? Right. It's not, right? And so we want to make adjustments, because that's what Jesus did for us. He could have just dropped the Bible down from heaven on a string, right? Yeah. But instead, he came to meet us where we were at, communicated to us through the culture that we were living in and through a language that we understood, and then came to actually understand and communicate with us in ways that we can understand. That's the loving thing to do. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to us talking to people, because a lot of times when people are just yelling Bible verses at people, that it's the same thing. You can have good intentions, but they're going to understand that to be offensive. And because all they're going to hear is, you're saying I'm a bad person. You know what I mean? So they're going to be like, forget you. You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds offensive. And same thing with the daughter and the considering the abortion, same kind of concept, So I think that's why it's really important that we don't just take these kind of cookie cutter responses, because then we kind of miss the person a lot. You know what I mean? When we just only are focused on saying like, oh, they said this, I know how to respond to this, so.
Yeah, and so what, there's a couple parts in that. You guys, for those of you that, I think everyone in the chat has seen these videos, but for those of you in the chat that haven't, John and I think the friend you're talking about did a series of videos on, was it apologetics and culture? You guys did a few.
Yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
And I love those, and I watch those, and what you were saying sort of reminded me of that. And then, so if you haven't checked them out, you guys make sure, if you don't know who John is and you're watching this, subscribe to his channel. And check it out. Those videos are really helpful. And
if you guys are from my channel, subscribe to his channel.
Oh, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that.
Really.
We can use the subs. One thing too is that I think what I heard you saying, if I understood it correctly, is think about how what you're saying is going to come across to somebody, not just empathizing, although that's a huge part of it, but with the emotional language, if that makes sense. As that type 2 structure guy, I'm thinking about, oh, okay, I'm analyzing what you're saying in a very step 1, step 2, But is that right? Am I sort of on the right track there?
Yeah, and this is where I feel like I can't do justice here, and I kind of feel bad because I want to make sure to communicate these ideas, but a lot of them kind of take time when we're trying to explain how the model goes. You know what I mean? But basically, you just want to understand where the person is coming from and why they're saying what they're saying. Not what they're saying, but why they're saying what they're saying, and then what they mean. So a practical way you can do that is like, what do they call it in psychology? It's like active listening. So you repeat back, he's like, oh, I hear you saying this, and you want to kind of keep trying to get data points like, how do you feel, and try to keep asking all these kind of questions to try to get a more and more clear picture of why they're saying what they're saying. Because if people are, if the real issue is the trunk of the tree and they're saying stuff, but we're just pulling off those leaves, we're not really getting to the root of the issue, So we want to make sure that we can kind of get past that and then get to what they're really saying. And and to love somebody, it takes time. It just takes time. There's no other way around it, So.
Yeah. So sort of like what I did there when I repeated back what I thought I heard and asked for clarification on it. Does that work?
Yeah. Yep.
That may be a little bit overly analytical. Sorry, that's me. That's my personality.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
The Socratic method, or for those of you that are familiar with the Columbo method from not
Tactics.
Tactics. Greg Koukl. I wanted to say Frank Turek, and I'm like, no, that's not right. But anyway, that's awesome, brother. I appreciate you taking. How are you okay on time?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
All right, because I'll keep you here forever. So you let me know how long we want to go. Corinth had a question, and I have a chart over here, Corinth. If John doesn't want to take this, I'm happy to answer the question. But John, he was asking for some clarification on internalism versus externalism. I could try to find the question again, but I think that's in essence what he was asking.
You can go ahead and take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially, Corinth, the internalism versus externalism divide is really over justification. And so with externalism, essentially what we're talking about is when we know something, where are we arriving at our justification? So the internalist essentially says that we can have access to that internally, essentially, and that's sort of. I'm being very bare bones about this, so forgive me. I can do a video in the future being more descriptive. And the externalist is going to say, no, those are things empirically that we would sort of point to. So thinking of like a priori versus a posteriori view of it. I'm being, again, very overly generalistic there, so forgive me, because if Dr. McGrew ever watches this, he's going to be like, "Oh, Sean, that's not exactly right." yeah, I know. Don't crucify me on that. Not that he would. He's an awesome guy, but But yeah, I can look at my chart here. I actually have, yeah, so sources of justification required. So internalism, sorry guys, I'm looking over at the chart, stresses having reasons for your beliefs and are, hold on, I'll do this the easy way. Watch this. Booyah! What? You see my horrible handwriting here, but stresses reasons for having one's beliefs and are generally interpreted as you being able to access those reasons from memory or cite it. And externalism would not necessarily have to access the reason in evidence that supports a belief, and may believe that they cannot be justified or that they just don't have to justify it, which is where John and I were sort of saying that's kind of like cheating in that sense. It may be right, it may not be right. I'm not saying that it is either or. I'm just simply saying it feels that way when you're trying to particularly in an apologetic sense.
Right. Yeah. So. One kind of maybe an example that can kind of illustrate if a little different is if you think about like so an externalist is gonna a lot of the time is think that like the way there has to be something outside of ourselves that makes something kind of true, so we can know something, and so and then the internalist is going to say like you can know stuff internally to start with. So you kind of think of like the Matrix, right? They're saying that this Matrix thing is making us know what we know, and the internalist is saying, and and then the externalist also is going to say like we may or may not be being deceived like it is in the Matrix, but we don't know, and they're kind of okay with that to some extent, and then the internalist is going to say, no, we can beat the Matrix from the inside out, it's something like that. So like we can come to know things from our kind of internal kind of foundations to some extent, and then we can start knowing stuff from there. So it really comes down to justification. On a practical level, to kind of give my view is that I would say that I think that all of us as humans are really kind of flawed. We have our sin nature, and we can be very biased, right? We can be really biased. And so the only way we can get out of being so biased is if we start measuring stuff with something more objective. And so this is the kind of problem I have with Reformed epistemology in one way, is because they say, I know this is true because I have an internal experience. But this is also what I hear Matt Dillahunty and all them kind of using too, because Dillahunty will say, when he's pressed, a lot of these guys, when they're pressed, they're going to say, okay, what will count as evidence for you, right? And instead of giving a criteria that we can hold them to, what he'll do is he'll go, well, I don't know what it will be, but God knows, and if he either doesn't exist, he's going to give it to me, or he doesn't care enough or whatever. Now, what he did is he shifted from something that we could all measure and went straight to the inside for something that we can't measure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we don't have access to that.
Yeah.
And if we don't have access to that, then how could he even know if his bias is keeping him from not accepting anything as evidence? You see, and so that's kind of a practical level, because I see that same thing kind of happening too when it comes to a lot of Christians, because it's like the kind of dominant view right now too. But in my opinion, and I mean this with uttermost respect and love for everybody, is I just think the postmodern culture has brought its way into the church rather than the other way around, because you just don't see this stuff happening biblically very much at all. You know what I mean? And the unpopular opinion, I know right now, but if I'm just going to keep it real and be honest, with you guys and myself, that's just how I kind of see it. Yeah,
no, I agree with that, brother, and I think that's spot on. That made me think of something I was going to throw out there. I had two thoughts. I had one prevailing thought, and then I overrode it with something you had said. I was like, that's a good point, and I wanted to elaborate or ask a question about it.
No worries.
Doggone it. Oh, outstanding. And just for further clarification too, guys, if you really want to research this stuff, look also at psychologism versus anti-psychologism in the internalist view. And so there, you got little things all inside there, and even like anti-psychologism is propositionalism. That's one example, and psychologism deals with whether or not the evidence that we have has to be true or not, and how we access it. And you could just go nuts, go deep into epistemology, which I like, because I want to know. I like thinking about my thoughts. That probably sounds weird to some folks, but how do I know these things, and why do I think the way I do?
Yeah.
Which anyway, and which sort of got into the psychology. I think you were. Yeah, Yeah, I lost it. Whatever it was, it wasn't
Oh no,
important.
no, absolutely. And just to kind of jump into my last point to give a little bit more clarification for what I meant about the church is like when people say like God, told them that this is true, and this isn't to get into like the sensationalism and all that kind of stuff, but just on a kind of practical level, like I hear Mormons saying this, right, where they say like, because I'll talk to Mormons regularly, and I kind of talk to all these religions, and this is a point where me and Dillahunty kind of agree to some extent. Besides, he goes too far. But when I hear that, I'm thinking like, oh, so picture from a Mormon saying this, right? I don't know if you really, it could have been God that talked to you, or it could be Satan, or it could be your flesh, it could be you know what I mean? All kinds of different things. But
Yeah.
because you don't have anything inside to measure it by, to know, you have to start from something outside. You know what I mean? To be able to have a better idea. And so that's why I think if like you look at the Book of Mormon, you don't have this evidence, for the people, place, and events and stuff in the Book of Mormon, and it's supposed to be a history of the ancient inhabitants of America and that sort of thing too, but it doesn't line up with any objective evidence. And so because of that, then I can say, oh, okay, so if God is telling you that Mormonism is true, it's not going to be God because it doesn't even correspond with reality at all, And so that's kind of how more kind of how I think of this at a practical level. And again, I know it's just unpopular opinion, so I mean, I'm fine if people want to disagree and stuff, but I think that just on a practical level, when we're actually doing stuff like that too, we have to have something that doesn't make it look like we're cheating, because then we're kind of postmodern. We're saying, oh, well, I can come to know things this way, and that's true for me, but it's not true for you, and then you're like, why? You know what I mean? So those are things that I really wrestled with myself, I think kind of years ago too, where, it was really kind of uncomfortable. And then I had to argue it with a lot of people, and kind of try to fight to try to make it make sense, and then try to keep evaluating and stuff like that too, and it took a while for it to even get past my intuitions about it, so.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I remembered what I was going to say, is that Reformed epistemology, where it lines up is in that incorrigible beliefs, which is what you're talking about, where it's a sort of internal non-propositional knowledge. So let me translate that for you non-philosophy geeks. In other words, it's I'm talking about my state of mind that are really not factually based. In other words, I believe, for instance, here's a great one that we hear all the time. Atheism is just a lack of belief. That may very well be true for that individual, but that's the problem. They've only talked about a psychological condition, their state of mind. They haven't talked about actually atheism. They've talked about their internal state. And the worst part is, and the philosopher Anthony Flew, who came up with this move, knew what he was doing. He was doing it to shift the burden of proof. He was doing it so that they didn't have to have a response. However, the problem is he shot himself in the foot because people now who propose this, they cannot say God does not exist because that's a belief. So otherwise, you now are a new category as soon as you make that declaration.
Oh yeah, and it's agnosticism, and all of them are there now too, because none of them want to hold a burden of proof. You know what I mean? Because it's easy if you're just sitting back and just throwing rocks at somebody, right? It's a lot harder to square up and have to fight. You know what I mean? But if you're just like, it's like Mayweather in boxing almost. I want to say it's like just dodging punches all day. You know what I mean? And that's all he's trying to do, and it's not really fighting at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I definitely think that the motivation behind it is that people don't want a burden of proof, which is why they're defining atheism as a lack of belief now. But again, like I talked about with the postmodernism, they took the definition of the word, what it really was, and shifted it. You know what I mean? So now it just has the way different meanings, and words. Language is elastic, so I'm not gonna say that it has to be written, but now you have this weird distinction, or you don't really have a distinction between agnosticism and atheism. And I know they always say I'm an atheist agnostic, that sort of thing too, but when you get down to the practicality of it, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't make any sense. So I see it mainly as an excuse.
I got a video we're doing on the whole presupposition of atheism and defining it, and I might be doing it with JMD, and I was going to do my part and send it over to you, brother, to say, hey, am I doing exactly what we're talking about, which is, am I hitting the nerve here in the sense that, I'm expressing it in a not overly analytical way, because I got the whole PowerPoint slides and everything. I'm like, that's already missing the mark. That's already not what I'm looking for.
Right.
But it's how I communicate, and I'm like, I got to pick your brain on that in a future date. But getting back into it, is what John is describing is this sort of incorrigible beliefs, guys. These internal things that can't be defeated. And that's the problem, I think, if I'm right, if I'm hitting the right mark there, so to speak.
Yeah, so you can have some sort of incorrigibilism
Oh,
with
yeah.
journalism and that sort of thing.
Sure.
I remember Tim McGrew wrote a good article called, I can't remember what it's called, but in the article he talks about hamburgers and headaches, and he says, I can be mistaken that I have a hamburger in my hand, but it's impossible for me to be mistaken that I have a headache
That's
right
right.
now.
That's
You
right.
know, and so then you have, so you can start from these kind of I want to call them axiomatic,
Yeah, that's what I think.
incorrigible beliefs, you know, and then you can kind of build up from there if needed.
Yeah, and that's part of foundationalism. I think what happens though is people rely solely on those for their arguments a lot of times, and then we're stuck going, well, there's no way to move the ball forward on the field. It's not even that you win; it's that we can't have a discussion.
Right,
if that's what we're
yeah.
going to do. Because
Yeah.
again, this example of the term atheism is the idea that if you're going to declare that it just has to do with your internal states, and it's not a worldview, what are we talking about?
Right. Yeah. And so I did a video like, gosh, when I first started my channel almost, so maybe a year and some ago, where there was a meme that said, belief in God or something like that because thinking is hard, right? And I was like, well, this is pretty ironic. Like my first thought was like, I said, it's the atheists who say that they don't think to have their position, right? Because there's just lack of belief, right? So I said, if anything, at bare minimum, you have to be able to think more to be a believer than you do a non-believer. If atheism is only a lack of belief, right?
Yeah, bro, you hit, when you see, I'll send you over my PowerPoints. When you see it, you're going to laugh so hard. I've watched that video and I must have gotten it subconsciously, but that's one of my points. Something to that effect. It's worded differently because I want to take it to the, a reductio ad absurdum, for those of you, again, that are unfamiliar, just showing how something is, the conclusion would lead to an absurdity, and therefore the position somebody's holding is ridiculous or untrue.
Yeah, and that's why in the video too is what I did to kind of like bring in like a little bit more of the uncomfortableness is I like showed my apartment and then I called everything an atheist, and then I was saying like you can literally be brain dead and be an atheist. You can be dumb as a box of rocks and be an atheist if it's only a lack of belief, because then I want to have some kind of skin in the game a little bit too, you know what I mean, to make the point more persuasive, because if it's just information it's not as persuasive. And I think the atheist Steve McCray, he was one of the hosts on the Non Sequitur shows until everything kind of blew up on the Non Sequitur. But he's an atheist who understands philosophy, so he always talks about, or he's an agnostic rather, because he knows that the term for an atheist means I believe that there is no God, and it's not just a lack of belief. And he gets crucified by the atheists because they're so tribal, you know what I mean? And I'm sure Christians are probably the same way, but from our side, I can see it, the other side. But they're so tribal, man, like that they're just like, anybody who disagrees on these kind of things, like instead of arguing with him and coming up with the logical points, they just shun him to outer darkness. You know what I mean?
I've seen, I think, one of the episodes where that's the whole topic of discussion, and he uses some other atheist philosopher's argument to talk about it. In fact, I sent snippets of it to you once where they're talking about it, I think. I don't remember what we were talking about, but I was using the argument form of the guys. I modified it because I was like, it could be a little better this way or that way, but
well, that's the thing too, is I don't know of a single professional atheist philosopher who would define atheism as a lack of belief in God. I mean, all these guys this is what kills me about online atheism, is you have these guys that are like way more brilliant, have way better arguments and this sort of thing too, but those are the guys that the atheists on YouTube just don't want anything to do with, But you think about like from anywhere from Graham Oppy to Schellenberg to Mackey to any professional atheist philosopher who actually thinks these things through on a logically rigorous level, they're not going to define atheism as that way. You know what I mean? But the online atheists say it's like the default position. And I understand we're kind of in a new time, but I really, again, think that this has to do with the postmodernism than it does the kind of old approach where we're following the logic where it leads. Yeah,
you're exactly right. And Graham Oppy is another example. And I know Cameron just did a video clip which I thought was hilarious. I don't know if you've seen that, where he takes a snippet from one of his episodes with Graham Oppy asking him to define atheism in his own words, and he says the exact same thing. It is the declaration that there is no God and or gods.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of Graham's books. Actually, I've got one in here on it, atheism, and Graham talks about it, and he's like, no. And he even defines where the atheists would try to say children are atheists. Graham's like, no, those are innocents. They don't have a belief. It's the same problem. If we're going to say things that can't think are atheists, you run into this problem whereby then you don't have to think to be an atheist. Is that the position we want to hold?
Yeah. That's what I said. I'm more than happy if you guys, if they want to define it that way, that's fine. You know what I mean? But take the consequences of it. Don't just
right.
You know what I mean? You have to be able to look it in its face and be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Don't turn around and say I'm an atheist because of logic, science. It's like, well, first of all, that has no content to me.
Right.
But even if you go that route, you can't do that. You can't define atheism that way and then do that.
That's right.
Sorry, y'all. I jumped there for a minute. We had a huge lightning strike nearby, and it scared me. So that's what I wasn't responding to John. Sorry about that, John. If you're wondering, like, what's wrong with that guy? That's why. Sorry about that. But any questions you guys have for John? I don't want to keep him too long. I do want to keep him too long, but I feel bad for him. And,
no worries, man.
So any questions you guys have for him, start throwing them in the chat. Put a Q on there so that Erica will send them over to me, because the chat on this app moves so fast, which is awesome. That means that you guys are talking up. I think we've had 345 comments, it looks like, which is awesome.
Awesome, man. Good. Yeah. No, I appreciate you inviting me on too, man. So it's good to be.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of glancing at comments now. Radical Love, what up? Good to see you. And then Rockspeed, Nate Dogg, D New, all you guys. Good to see you guys. See you guys all the time. So good to see you guys all. Julian, of course.
Corinth. If you don't know Brother Corinth yet, John, he's an awesome guy and good, sharp too. Adam, AM, some new faces.
Corinth actually sounds familiar. I think on our Patreon live stream, Corinth, if that was you, let me know. With me, Wood, and Vocab. That name just sounds familiar, yeah.
Might have been. Yeah, that Corinth Chandler sort of sticks out.
Cool.
Great guy, real sharp, loves philosophy, and he geeks, like us, geeks out on this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Cool. All right, I see some questions. You want me to start taking them? Or?
Yeah, brother, go right ahead.
I'm just looking now. AM says, where do you get your ideas for videos? How do you find the material? I don't know. I always I kind of keep a list of when I have these random ideas. I'm like, ooh, that'd be a cool idea video. And I'll just write it down and I keep a notepad. Or if something just sparks some sort of kind of thing to me where I'm like, ooh, I can do this and blend this with this and this and that. Then I'll just, kind of just write down the idea, and then I'll come back to that list and then see whatever I'm kind of in the mood to deal with. And then, just do that. So that's basically kind of how I do, which I know isn't helpful or special or anything like that, but it's basic. Julian says, do you make your videos yourself, or do you have others who do graphics, music, etc.? No, I do them all myself. Yeah. I always think about hiring people to do them, so to save time, because time is crazy right now. It's so hard. I'm having the hardest time just trying to keep up. But I always like things a certain way, and then I gotta shake this too. It's so stupid, but I like things a certain way, and then if they're just not that way, it's just gonna bug me just a little bit, and it's gonna eat away at me. So I've got to get rid of that one day. But for now, hopefully I can maybe train somebody else to edit my videos exactly how I want. So
I'm smiling over here because I'm always telling them, hey man, if you want any help, just let me know.
I know, yeah.
So I'm over here laughing because I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I know. You guys, because Sean's always been like, hey man, what do you need me to help with? And I'm just like, man, I don't know, because I'm always thinking I need to start letting go of some of that stuff. It's awful, but yeah.
No, I get it, and I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I think we're all, at least those of us, it's the same way. At least I know.
Yeah.
I had a question for you, and I don't remember what it was. My brain apparently is not firing on all cylinders this afternoon.
No worries, man.
It was a spin-off of one of the questions. Yeah, you do, John. You do excellent work. It was gonna be about your editing or something in terms of the videos, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. It'll come back. I think.
Don't worry, man. No, I used to spend a lot more time on editing because I used to like add font and graphics and all this stuff. But now, since I just don't have as much time, I had to make a decision to just like cut out a lot and kind of keep it more straightforward, you know. So.
I know what it was. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Listen, if those of you that are on here and you like what John does, consider going on his Patreon and supporting him. Okay, he won't say that because he's that awesome of a dude, but I'll say it for him. All right, because I know other guys that I don't think are as good as him or have as many followers, and they've got much bigger Patreon support, and John really deserves it because if we do that and support him, that helps him to be able to hire people to do that kind of stuff. So I know what it's like, but you know, just consider it. That's all I'm saying. If you guys could.
I appreciate that, man. No, so I have kind of like a vision of what I want to do in the future, but I mean, this is all God willing. If it works out, it works out. If not, it doesn't. But basically, my next step would be to go full time, so that way I can start putting out like, you know, at least a few videos a week, and also just be able to do more when it comes to the ministry stuff. But eventually, so what I would like to do is stack up responses to all these leading atheist YouTubers, because there's not too many people that I've seen, at least, that are actually making responses to this stuff. And this stuff is like so silly, a lot of it too, you know, like, but they get away with it because nobody's challenging them. And these YouTube atheist channels are so big. Like most of them, like the average one that I deal with is going to be over 200,000 subs. You know what I mean? And so they're so big that they have so much of an influence, and we need more people combating that. So if you guys, I'm not saying even support me at all. Like I don't care. I just think that support people who you feel like are going to make a difference, because we need that help. And the Christian community, we really do need to come together to be that stuff. And then eventually too, I want to be able to start training more people, spend time with other YouTubers and stuff like that too, and then kind of working through like the you know, the models and stuff that I talked about that we've developed and stuff like that, working through this stuff to get them better, you know. And me and David Wood, this is one thing we talked about right when we met, because we both had a similar vision with this. We want to build more apologetics, stronger apologists and stuff online, because there can be some awesome guys and stuff like that too, but it's just hard to, like, you know, kind of get off the ground. And so we want to start like building where we work with people, really help them, push them, that sort of thing too, which obviously I have to be full-time to be able to do that too. But those are my visions, and, you know, works out, awesome. Not, then I'll just keep doing, you know, what I'm kind of doing now. So
yeah, and listen, everything John said, except for the part where he said you don't have to support him, because he can't do all that. Those are awesome things. But on a serious note, there was a question Medic for Christ had, which is, what do you think of Cosmic Skeptic's video on Athanasius, I think is the question, in Oxford? Do you think he is forgetting that Yahweh calls us to be sons of God and he is holy? I don't know if you're familiar with the video or not.
I watched like the first few minutes of it on my way to work the day it came out, and I've been meaning to go back and watch it, but I haven't got back to it. So yeah, unfortunately, I know what video you're talking about, but I just can't recall his points really that clear right now. So.
Oh, no, yeah, no worries. And yeah, thank you, Radical Love, for posting that link. And listen, for those watching this video ipso facto, or, you know, later, John, the links to John's channel, his Patreon, should be down in the description already. If they're not, they will be. But so you can check them out there. There was another question I had too, in that what you were talking about with you and Brother Wood, Dr. Wood. So you guys are thinking sort of having a network eventually, where you're kind of bringing everything together? Yeah.
So Wood kind of really works with a lot, me, Vocab, Anthony Rogers, Sam Shamoon, you know, and then like Al Fadi, and, you know, a lot of us kind of too. But and then he's been working a lot too with I can't think of his real name.
Christian Prince?
No. Oh my gosh, and I like this guy too. So
the Caucasian guy that's sometimes on David's channel.
Yeah. Islam Critiqued. Critiqued.
Yes.
Yeah, cool guy too. So Wood's kind of working at that too, but like we want to eventually get more organized and stuff too. And honestly, I'll probably be doing a lot more of the kind of time stuff too, because Will's always busy too, and he's always like traveling and stuff like that too. But yeah, that's eventually what we want to do, because we're only as good as we are in numbers, you know what I mean? And right now we are really outnumbered, and that's just the truth, And so it's hard for Christians. What I notice is that everybody that starts a channel as an apologist will eventually get flooded by these large atheist channels people, you know what I mean? So like, if an atheist ever makes a response, they flood your channel and then they discourage people. And I've seen it happen over and over. Like people get discouraged and then they get off YouTube because they just get flooded by these people. And so I saw this from the beginning, and so I was trying to like kind of like prepare for it and all too. But now that my channel is just a little bit bigger, I can carry a little bit more weight now, so it makes it easier, you know what I mean? But my channel's still small, you know what I mean, next to their channels and stuff too. But when Cosmic Skeptic just threw out like a little passive tweet about my video, somebody said, "Are you going to respond to What Do You Meme?" Because people were posting it all over his video, and he did a tweet that said, I plan to eventually, or something like that. And then floods of people came to my video, all downvoting, all my videos, all leaving these nasty comments and all that. And that's just what they do all the time too.
Yeah.
But like when you have a channel like Wood's channel, where it's so big now that like, the atheist channels that are going to do that, most of them aren't going to even be close to being able to overflood their channels and sort of like that too. But I honestly don't mind it. Like I picked up a lot of atheist subscribers and stuff like that from a lot of the Cosmic Skeptic series and then the Rationality Rules and stuff, and I find that I keep getting more and more comments of atheists agreeing with me on a lot of stuff too, which makes me feel better about the future of because that means we can actually start reaching some of these people, you know what I mean? And so maybe feel a little bit better, because usually it's just like just super negative. So
and I think for me, although I would wish they would become Christians, but even if not, I just would love to see them start to become more, not just civil, but more rational in that sense.
Yeah.
You and I had a conversation about this, and thank you to Adam and Brother Julian who came out and helped Erica out. We got flooded one day with atheist comments on a video she did about just being nice to atheists. It's like a 3-minute video, and it's our highest watched video, and it's just atheists. And same thing, got a ton of downvotes. And I'm like, well, it's helping the channel out. I don't know if they realize that by coming on and leaving all the comments and watching it. But what surprised me, going to your point, is that I responded to one the other day. Within 5 minutes, brother, I had like 5 or 6 other atheists. The video didn't have any action. I responded to the one guy, and within 5 minutes, I had 5 other atheists on there, and I'm going, what is going on here? And
what's so bad about it is that their comments are hardly ever rational, and I don't mean that in trying to just be
you're right.
whatever, but I mean I'm just being completely honest. Like they're hardly ever rational, and then it's just like, so in other words, one of the ways I look at it is like, I want to put pressure on some of these guys a little bit, only in the aspect where I want them to raise the quality of their objections to Christianity, so we have a better kind of discourse. Because I mean, all of these slogans and this, like, these one-liners that they always think debunk everything is just so bad. You know what I mean? It's so bad. And so if we can get them thinking more like the professional atheist philosophers, then I think we're actually going to have some good discussions, But when it's all emotion and rhetoric, like, you know what I mean? These guys, I mean,
No, I agree with you 100%, brother. Our big thing is attack arguments, not people. I used to use a slogan every now and then, which is, let's act like scholars, not school kids. And because it's so true. That's the kind of objections I get, whether they're, it's just that sort of thing. Even if they're on a high school level, it's still, juvenile in that sense. And I'd love to see that those come up. Sort of speaking on that note, you are working on a project. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all before you go.
And real quick on your last point too. I think if again, you want to take kind of like some of the stuff that they're thinking, but you want to do it better. So this is why I don't mind it, because I can, if they're going to be witty and funny and all that, I can do that stuff. But then I'm going to have like some real good logic behind it, or some because a lot of the stuff, they're missing the logic. They just have the rhetoric and they just have the insults and all that or whatever too. But I don't mind coming back and then we're having something superior, because it's not just that. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, so. for the project, I'm still working on the documentary called "What If Jesus Never Existed," and then I'll be working too on a documentary on David Wood's life, which I think they're both going to be really cool. I'm more excited about the one on David Wood's life just because like I know him and I've already planned out so much in my head of like what I want to do. You know, like do I go interview like his jail mate that he was in with and get like, so there's a lot of stuff that I have in my mind where I have locations and how I want to do the film and all that in mind already.
Right.
But I'm excited too about the What If Jesus Never Existed. I pretty much talk about like, we talk a lot about the evidence and stuff of Jesus in there too, because I wanted to make sure that was clear. But we're talking about like, people don't realize the impact that Christianity has really had on our Western values and civilization and all these things that people value. Christianity was directly responsible for so much of it. And so like, because it's knowledge that a lot of people don't know, and when I was looking for it, I couldn't really find a whole lot on it. When it came to like, you know, I was looking for videos and stuff. I was like, yeah, there's nothing there. So that's kind of what prompted me to want to do the video. So I have most of the people already recorded and stuff like that. And I'm slowly working on the editing because, you know, it just takes time. So I'm just like, every time after I do record somebody, I start clipping out like what I thought were like the best parts and stuff that I want to use, and then kind of setting those to the side. So I have that, and then I have a couple other things, but it's still going to take me a while, you know, until I can get a little bit more time, honestly. So
yeah, no, that's awesome, brother. And if you need a handsome red-haired theologian, I might know one.
This guy, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, for either of the videos, just saying. Shameless self-promotion there, but yeah, no, yeah, I'm really excited because I've seen, probably like everyone else in the chat, the previews. I can't think of what I want to call that right now. The videos that you did, and I'm just super excited about that. So because the cast you have, man, I can't wait. And you did Tim McGrew too, right? You had Tim in there.
Yeah, Tim's a good friend too, man. Like. Tim's a guy who, like, when I was trying to learn like probability theory and stuff like that, when I was like doing debates and stuff, like Tim's the kind of guy, like, he dropped everything to help me all the time, you know what I mean? And like, it's because we go back and all that like that too, like Tim is always going to be special to me, you know. Him and Paul Copon's another guy who has always been there to help me out too, and you know, and to talk things through with and stuff like that too. So like those guys will always be like, you know, pretty, you know, you know, special to me because of that, you know. So
yeah, I wrote Dr. McGrew. He was a guest at our professor had him on in one of my courses, and he said, hey, you guys can email me, and I never got a response back. It's probably like, who is this guy? Delete. And I told him, I said, you know, it's from so and so's class and Dr. Crawford's class, and I'm also friends with John, and I just had some questions about ... and he's probably like, yeah, whatever, you know, he's just name dropping. I'm like, he's probably just busy, or it went.
That's funny. You said Tim
McGrew, yeah, Dr. McGrew.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's probably busier now too than he was when I was like reaching out to him like every day for help. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But even like, you know, every time I see Tim too, it's always good, man. Like, yeah, just love that guy. So.
He seems really cool. I've watched a lot of his material online. We own 3 or 4 of his books. I don't think I have them up here right now, but I've got several on it. I've got his Foundations on foundationalism, and his newer one on internalism.
Oh yeah. I have it somewhere, but internalism and epistemology is, I think, what it's called. That one.
Yeah,
that book's awesome. It's super dense.
Oh God, man,
that book is not for the weak. It's only like this big, but I'm like, my goodness.
Yeah, it's like this one. This is Graham's, but it's not that thick. It's a little thicker. And I got through. It's like this one on evidentialism, about that thick, and I got through the Gettier objection, and I agree. And it's funny because like when I'm reading it in my words, it's dumbed down. Same conclusion on the Gettier problem for the most part, but he just you're reading it and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think the other time I had that, because I've like, so the Blackwell Companion to Natural Theology, J.P. Moreland has an article on the argument from consciousness, and I remember I had to read through that about 3 times before it really clicked. I was like, so I printed it out, and then he has all these like philosophical words and stuff that like I wasn't familiar with for some reason, like some of them, because I even took philosophy, but there was some words and stuff I was like, what does that mean? And I'd have to look them up. So I would write them all down, and then I'd go back and read it all again, and then think through it, But I remember I read it about 3 times before it sunk in to me, you know what I mean, to really get that argument. So like some stuff like that, it's just going to take longer.
That I have that. I have it. It's a companion to. Yeah, I have it in my library downstairs. And who was it? Swinburne had an article in there. I think if it's the same one I'm thinking of, or a similar volume. And I'm like, what? I'm trying to read it, and I'm going, oh my goodness, because he's symbolizing all the logic at one point. He goes, oh, let me show, and I'm like, hold on, let me translate that to regular form of that. I don't even know what it looks like, a giant algebra formula for the for the beginning, first moments of the Big Bang or something. I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is going to take me forever to translate.
That's a lot of the articles on that book. Swinburne is not in that one, but Swinburne, like his book on the soul was awesome, but he spends like his first like huge portion of the book just defining terms. Like that's it. He's just defining what he's talking about. And so you're trying to get through all this, and you're like, my goodness, like, but he has to be so precise in order to make his argument just right. You know what I mean? So that way people can understand it, and, because you kind of defeat a bunch of objections people would have in advance if you can define your term clearly. But that's part of the game sometimes with philosophy, man. But it helps us think better. It really does.
Oh yeah. I'm thinking of the Quinn and Taliferino companion to, I think it's not philosophical theology, philosophy of religion. I think it's a big one, but it's like tan color. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those are all good books, and they got a lot of good articles in them.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, it's so dope to see everybody in the chat too, because these are like a lot of my patrons and stuff like that too. You guys are dope, man. Like I feel bad because I just don't get to thank you guys enough. But honestly, like, because I was working 2 jobs and doing my channel and trying to be a decent dad and a decent husband, right? But I got down to where I was able to stop working my second job so I could just do videos, thanks to the patrons. So really appreciate you guys, your support. Like, I just can't even thank you enough. So want everybody to know that, because I don't get enough chances to tell you guys how much I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're awesome, brother, and we love supporting you. Oh, I say that because we do support you in our household.
Appreciate that.
Oh yeah, brother. And yeah, it's funny. I think we were having a private Google hangout, and are you familiar with Kingmaker theory at all?
Don't think so.
Maybe. Now, I'm roughly familiar with it. Think of it this way, and I'll probably butcher it. So if anyone in the chat is familiar, you can fix what I'm about to say. Think the idea that when you get a certain group of people and they're involved, it's going to create, so whoever they're involved with is going to get to whatever level. In other words, the idea that if we take YouTube as an example, when you see certain people on one channel where that channel is very successful, and you look on other channels and you start to see them showing up, all of a sudden you watch that channel become successful. I'm very blessed that we've had a lot of those on our channel. I'm hoping that's an indicator, although I don't know.
Well, it's weird is like, I remember when I started like my channel and stuff, and from the beginning I was like, I would see channels that were like, like 1,000 subscribers, and I'm like, my goodness, you know what I mean? I was like, gosh, that's huge, you know what I mean? I was like, that's crazy, like, to get there, and then so I do feel blessed that God's entrusted me with with more subscribers and stuff like that too, or for to get a more audience that I can reach. I always feel the pressure because I'm like, you have more responsibility now, you know what I mean? So it's because sometimes like I worry too, because like, like I like to be like a little bit snarky sometimes, because I do it as a communication tool a lot. I don't want people to take that and conclude from that like, oh yeah, I should just be a jerk to people, because I'm like, oh no, so I'm always like worried about that. Like, I don't want people to just like take some elements or something like that and think they need to do it. And also, like I said earlier, I think people need to do their local ministries and work in their local church and that sort of thing. I think that's way more important than YouTube. I really do. And so then I kind of worry if people want to drop out of their local ministry and then want to start a YouTube channel because they like my channel or something like that, And so that's another fear I have. So I always just keep, worrying about these things, like, sometimes, but it's like I can just do my best and, just try to be as authentic and honest as I can with myself and before God, and and just try to do well with the flock that He's entrusted me with. Like at the end of was that First Peter 4? I think they started talking about that. But yeah, so
yeah. No, you're doing awesome. How long has your channel been up, brother?
So started in
don't say a year. Don't say a year. Don't say a year.
It's been a year and a half. About a year and a half. It was actually December.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but anyways, about a year and a half ish.
That's awesome, brother. Well, that's a testament to your ability to do it and do it right. I think we started in December and we're at 200 subs.
Oh man, dude, it's the first hump is the hardest, man. It
really
yeah. Is,
yep. Yeah, hitting 1,000 is it's like tick 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 tick. This part of the roller coaster, and then you start to get that.
It's easier because you people start sending you new people every day. You know what I mean? So that's what happens. And then too, like I'm still figuring out what I'm doing. Still, you know what I mean? Like you start figuring out things that work better as you go on. Because I've got over 180 videos is the last I looked or something, and I'm still like I feel like honestly like lately I'm just now starting to kind of get more comfortable even with the camera. Like I was so uncomfortable in front of the camera for at least a year, you know what I mean? At least a year, and so like just takes time a lot.
Yeah, it makes sense. You sort of learn to hit your stride. My dad said that when he would watch Erica and I's first videos. He'd be like, that's not you guys. I don't know who that is. You got to get more comfortable. I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. That's
it's so hard.
Do that, I would, yeah.
Yeah. And even like when we did Islamicize Me with Wood and all that too, like I wasn't nearly as comfortable in front of the camera then as I am now. I was like the person, there was like a Friends episode, remember way back in the day when they put the camera in front of Chandler and he just instantly does like this awkward face, because just the camera just being there makes him feel awkward.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I was like, I know I'm in a room by myself, but just with the camera in front of me, I feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, it takes a long time to get, at least for me, it takes a long time to like work past stuff and get comfortable and then develop your tone and what you're doing and, kind of like your character or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? Online or what works for you.
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And by the way, on that note, the latest, it's not Islamicize Me Now, but the Muhammad's Boom Boom Room.
Yeah.
With you as the Hebrew Israelites, I'm sure a lot of if you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. Is that on your channel too, John, or is it on both?
No, it's just on Wood's.
It's on David Wood's channel. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I was laughing so hard at the what? The ham, the what?
Well, see, that's what's hard about a video like that is like a lot of people don't know much about the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Right.
So I was thinking, I told Wood and Vocab this. I was like, people are going to be like, what is going on? You know what I mean? But if you do know a little bit about them, how they act, and then their doctrine and all that too, then it makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
And the handcuffs, I caught that. I forgot to tell you that when I texted you, but the handcuffs hanging off your arm.
Yeah, that's because at first I was putting them on because I'm just looking for more because they always wear black and it's like the silver and stuff, and they dress like Mortal Kombat characters. It's so funny to me. So anyways, I was like, oh, maybe I can use his handcuffs, and then I was like, because Vocab's son, his kids had to play handcuffs. Then I was just like. And then Wood saw like half of it hanging off. He's like, just leave it like that. I was like, all right. So,
yeah.
But no, man, it's good. The Black Hebrew Israelites are a group that I think we need a lot more people working in apologetics there. It's like Vocab, and then that's like almost it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a few other people that touch on it, here and there, but those guys, man, they're in that first category, like I talked about too, of just the authority base. So the reasoning and stuff like that's not going to be affected. You have to find a way to make them to hunt doubt in their authority first before you can even start moving. And because it's linked with identity so much, if you go against them, they're thinking you're against black people and they think you're racist and all this. And they're genuinely racist. A lot of them are like super racist. You know what I mean? They put any racist to shame. You know what I mean? So, but because they think that God hates white people, and so therefore they think that it's okay for them to hate white people. You know what I mean? Because they're like, why would I love them if God doesn't?
Yeah.
So.
No, and that makes perfect sense. If you guys, those of you that haven't seen Vocab's channel, you can check that out too. But only after you've subscribed to John's channel. That's like rule of thumb.
Vocab's my boy. I'm gonna do something sometime soon on. You gonna say hi?
Hi.
Say what's up.
What's up?
What's up, everybody?
What's What's up, everybody?
Yeah. Say, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you meme?
My boy's big now.
Oh, he's
Probably
getting big.
The video that he did like a long time ago, and he was so much smaller. Now he's bigger.
Yeah.
So.
What was it? What he was in with you? Oh, there was a hilarious one you did.
Oh yeah, I did a skit with him in it recently. Yeah. But.
I can't think of which one it was, but I always enjoy your stuff because it. Not only do you get the point, but it's hilarious too. It's very entertaining.
No, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, man, it's good. So, I feel blessed. So.
Amen, brother. And any final questions you guys have? I want to let John. I feel bad keeping him because he'll stay all day if I let him, or if I keep him, because he really is that. When I say he's a nice guy, guys, I'm not joking. He really is that awesome.
Appreciate that, man.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm making faces at your boy. If you wonder why I'm making I'm not making them at you. I'm making them at your son.
Oh no.
Sorry.
Dude, I didn't even see. I was trying to look at the comments here to see if there's any questions or anything. Yeah, you guys want to ask me anything else real quick before I go? Go ahead and throw it in.
Mini John, yeah. Air Church says Mini John.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I did a video of. Do you guys see the video? Did you ever see that video? Like, where it's just him in the video and he's like reviewing baby memes?
No, I'll have to go back and look for that.
Yeah, I can't remember I can't remember what it's called now. But he's just reviewing baby memes like over a year and some ago or whatever. But he was all small then. Now he's just like tall. It's so weird, So.
Oh, they grow up so fast. That's why we keep having kids, because we love them when we love them in all sizes. But that little phase is fun.
Yeah. We have our little boy is gonna be 1 next month too. So we got the little one here. He's the one screaming in the back. If you can hear him.
I don't think anybody watching this minds at all. I think everybody.
Good.
That's the one thing I love about being part of this community is that everybody, our moderators, Radical Love, D-New, Nate, I mean just everybody, Air Church, all of these folks are just so awesome, and I really, the online Christian side of the community. I mean, a lot of times I go on Vocab's channel and I feel bad because I'm over there talking to all the Christians in the side chat. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm here to listen to Vocab. I gotta, and it's not that Vocab's not saying anything good or useful or anything like that. It's just I get so caught up in the community side of it.
Yeah. No, it's still. I mean, all the conversation, all that stuff, any kind of interaction still helps because it helps YouTube know, oh, people are interacting, so let's boost the video more. So any kind of interaction you guys do on any videos always helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. That was something I wanted to say. I wrote it down. If you guys, even if you say, well, boy, I'd love to help you out, John. I'd love to help you guys, but maybe if I can't financially. Listen, comments in the comment section help out a lot, and you don't have to be the aggressive kind of Christian or like Julian will just put the hurt. I could just visualize if it was a visual thing, like Julian's like suplexing people, boom.
Yeah.
But, you could just leave good comments on a channel because the more likes those get, the more they get pushed up to the top anyway.
It's all but all interactions really do help. I mean, because this was when Cosmic Skeptics sent all the atheists in my video, they started showing it to more Christians too. You know what I mean? So it's kind of crazy how it works, but I'm still learning how things work too, like kind of the more I kind of go on. So
I saw a comment swing by there. Let me see if I can catch it again. I thought caught my attention. I thought I'll bring it up, or maybe never mind. It was a Radical Love said a skit with Sean, you, John, and Nate. I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah. So me, Wood, and Vocab don't even live in the same states. We all live in different states. So we just we'll kind of just like meet up once every few months or something like that too. So it's kind of hard sometimes to like bring everybody. Like this last time we were supposed to bring Apostate Prophet. A couple weeks ago. Yeah, but he couldn't. He ended up not being able to make it, which kind of sucks. But yeah. Anyways, it's always like we have to kind of work everything out, our schedules and times. But we'll meet up every kind of few months or so. So we'll be together again in for about 2 weeks or something like that. Gonna get together in New York. So yeah.
Awesome. We look forward to the videos, man. You guys are doing a lot of awesome work.
Thanks, man.
Oh yeah, brother. Any other questions, real quick? I don't see anything. It's just jokes. Nate said something funny, but it passed by so quick I forgot what. Oh, he said it's okay. None of the mods listen to Vocab. One day we were in there talking about 80s TV shows. We were just listening to them, and somehow it just started. like I don't even
Yeah.
know. So we were all people would just Frasier, you know, da 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 da, and it just caught on.
That's funny.
Yeah, playing games and stuff in there.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome.
All right, y'all. Hey, to those of you watching, thank you guys so much. I don't see any new anything else, so we love y'all and appreciate all of your support.
Yeah, appreciate. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man, and appreciate, of course, everything you do and your support, and also everybody that's in the chat. Like, it's awesome to be able to, because I recognize, like, I think almost all of you. You know what I mean? Which is dope. So, thank you guys, like, for everything too. I mean, obviously, like, you know, it all comes down to you guys. So, appreciate it. Hope that it blesses you guys and helps you. So.
Yeah, and remember, if you know, somebody spouts off that atheism is you know, just a personal subjective belief, what are you going to say?
What are you gonna say, Case?
What are you going to say, Case?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Round two.
Awesome. What do you mean? Awesome.
What do you mean?
All right, brother.
All right.
What
Good
do
to see
you
you, man. Say bye.